Looking out at this vast, crystal-clear body of water, it's hard to believe that this is a lake and not an ocean. People are drawn to Lake Michigan for the mixture of dunes and wide sand beaches for peace and quiet, calmed by the dense forests that push up against the lake's cool waters, which are teeming with fish. Others dive in just for the fun of it. This Great Lake has the world's longest freshwater coastline and some of this country's most beautiful landscapes. It's the perfect place for an epic family getaway, which is exactly what Pat and Louise Hillegas were looking for when they first found this piece of heaven.
We wanted to build a place that would be kind of a new home for the kids and that they would come to love.
Pat and Louise already owned a lake cottage 30 miles north of Milwaukee on Lake Michigan. But they ripped it down because it was way too small for their growing family. And instead created an authentic lakeside lodge that would have room enough for the whole gang.
We had to make it big enough that we could all gather together, because that's sort of what we do.
The result, 10,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 7.5 bathrooms, and 3 full living rooms. 1 for each floor.
So if the little kids wanted to hang out, and the middle kids wanted to hang out, and the adults wanted to hang out, they wouldn't have to be on top of each other.
For Pat and Louise, each and every decision they made about building this epic home revolved around their wooded lakeside location.
My family is all from Tennessee, in wooded areas. Pat grew up on the ocean, so we understand how big and wonderful Lake Michigan is, and it's very much like an inland ocean. And so it's kind of like the best of all worlds.
That's why Pat and Louise insisted that the forest and lake dominate every room in the house, which meant adding more than 140 windows throughout the home. And right smack in the middle, an atrium, 2 stories of open space and spectacular views.
It was trying to bring the outside in, to have the feel that you were on the lake, even though you weren't on the lake.
The upstairs opens up. It's a loft area, so it opens up onto the downstairs. You can always hear the water.
That's right. This is a beach house with its very own river running through it. Pat and Louise worked overtime with their architect, Richard Scherer, to get it just right.
To start the river, we kind of came up with the idea of let's use a boulder, carve the boulder out, and install gurglers into the boulder so we bring nature right into the inside of the home.
Richard scoured the local fields until he found a 3,500-pound boulder just the right size, or so he thought.
They had to bring it in with a little forklift, and turned out that the forklift was bigger than the opening in the door.
We were about 3 inches too wide to get into the house. So we actually just cut the wall out so that the Bobcat could now fit through the wall and drive into the house, into the lower level.
And you could see the look on his face, like, oh, my goodness. Not his best day, having to take down a wall he'd already built.
With the boulder finally in position, the riverbed was carved into the floor, sloped so the water flows from the woods towards the lake, just like a real river.
I love rivers, and I love the sound of running water. I find it incredibly peaceful. It's like I'm a different person in this house than I am in other places.
But there's also downsides to it. I have to think that I'm probably a really stupid person to put a river in the middle of your house with 4 grandkids, because our 3-year-old last year really liked to see how much of the water he could empty out.
Fortunately, Pat and Louise made sure their granite floors could take it.
Well, whenever you live on the water, you're gonna get a lot of sand. You're gonna get sand and water in your house. So literally, I said I'd like to have a floor that if I had to, I could just hose it down.
The river is on the lowest floor, along with a game room and a movie theater that Pat insisted on adding at the last minute.
Pat's like, look at all this space. What is all this space? I said, that is storage. He says, oh, we have to do something else with that.
Yeah.
Back comes the movie theater.
Standard stadium-style seating wasn't going to cut it for Pat. He wanted custom automated recliners.
We have a lot of kids who like movies, watch TV, watch games, watch sports. So it fit the family.
Upstairs, the main floor houses the kitchen, which is massive for obvious reasons.
I call it the command post.
And for feeding their large family, Pat and Louise searched for a dining room table that would fit their wooded surroundings and more than 22 people. Pat tracked down a woodworker who cut and shipped a single 16-foot slab of finished black walnut all the way from Oregon. It's literally as big as a tree.
It took a lot of effort to get it in. I think it's about 1,200 pounds. I think about 8 full-size guys are struggling to get it from the front of the house
It's a long walk.
all the way around and in here.
Pat and Louise wanted all the public rooms on one side of the atrium. Then they commissioned a custom glass bridge to connect them with the 2 master bedroom suites on the other side. Above all else, Pat and Louise insisted every room be kid-friendly, even the bathrooms.
We had 3 grandsons when the house was built, and they each took a shower head and, played forever in here.
And everyone likes hanging outside. There's a porch with a hot tub and plenty of room to stretch out. And a couple of terraces designed for cooking, eating, and kicking back. It's all right off their own stretch of prime Lake Michigan beachfront, which created the biggest challenge of all when it came time to build.
We became aware that the actual site is 8 feet below the 100-year floodplain. And so in order to build on the site, we needed to raise the site up 8 feet. So we brought in 7,000 cubic yards of fill that's laid in 6-inch lifts, and then as we lay it, we compact it.
The workers were at it for weeks, and then to hold all the fill in place, they brought on the boulders, 550 tons worth, which created another huge problem.
So one of the challenges was actually getting it to the site. And we discovered that there was a bridge on the road that we actually had to rebuild with steel beams so that we could support the weight of the trucks bringing all of the outcropping stone to the site.
Cost of the bridge, fill material, and tons of big stone blocks, $170,000. For Pat and Louise, all the heavy lifting and expense was worth it because they now have a place for the people they care most about. A whole crowd of them.
Our goal was to make anybody that walked in this house feel like it was comfortable, it was their home. If you want to wear your shoes, wear your shoes. If you don't like wear shoes, don't wear your shoes. We don't care.
So what does it cost to get that kind of come-as-you-are comfort in a beach house big enough for a family that's still got a ways to grow? That's next. When Pat and Louise Hillegas outgrew their beach cottage on the shores of Lake Michigan in Wisconsin, they built a family retreat with dozens of kids and dogs in mind. 3 stories and 10,000 square feet, with a river running through it, with room for the whole family to come and play. A house like this can cost more than $2 million.